You both were outside in the snow. Two skis, please, you asked the lady who handed you two sets of skis with a very reluctant face. I can carry my own skis, Jungkook. You rolled your eyes at him. I know, he replied, but didn't hand them to you. You appreciated the little stuff that he did for you, like opening doors for you or checking up on you to see if you was okay or not. You have never met a guy who would do that for you. You did have a question to ask him though as you both tugged up the snowy ski slope. I have always wondered why you didn't let me say goodbye to my brothers the first time we met. You spoke loudly due to the wind. He stared at you with his big snow goggles over his eyes and his heavy winter jacket on. He then turned his look back to the snow you were walking on. You are still curious about that? He shook his head. You nodded frantically. He let out a hesitant sigh before he said, I could already tell that your father abused you by the way you flinched. What angered me more was that you had five brothers who wouldn't save you. They wouldn't put themselves in danger to protect you. And in case you have wondering, I hate your brothers with every ounce of my soul for letting you be beaten for so long. You swear you could see the look of rage through his black goggles, but his voice showed a hint of sadness. Okay, you responded. It was the only thing you could say because you knew he was right. You had five brothers who were all strong and you knew how to fight. Not once did they try and stop your father's beating. They were too selfish to put themselves in harm's way for you, their little sister. I thought I was selfish. Jungkook snickered, shaking his head with a smile that said he couldn't believe he found someone more selfish than him. But your brothers, they're the most selfish people I have ever met. He snarled angrily. I didn't even have to talk to them to know that. Due to all talking, you hadn't even realized you were at the top of the slope. This is a bit steep, don't you think? Jungkook gave you a worried stare. No, you are good at everything, remember? You smiled cheekily before clicking your boots into your skis. You are not even going to teach me how to ski first, he questioned angrily. Not with that attitude, you warned him. Fine, attitude is gone. Now help me. He demanded you sigh before pulling him to his feet. He almost fell over. I already heard this, he grumbled, trying to stand still. How are you standing so steadily? He shouted, frustrated, causing you to laugh. I don't know. Practice, you shrugged, trying to catch your breath from laughing at him. You know, this is only the first slope. You giggled, seeing his eyes widen. You are lying. He didn't believe you. Where do you think the ski's lift goes? You grinned, waiting for a reply. I'm going to die. And as he said that, a 6-year-old boy flew down the ski slope without a problem. You pointed to the skid. See, it's easy. He mumbled something that you didn't hear. See you at the bottom. You winked at Jungkook before pushing yourself down the slope. You are just going, is all you could hear until you couldn't hear him anymore. Suddenly you see a flash and Jungkook was practically flying past you. He was going straight down the slope. Maybe you should have mentioned that you have to turn. Jungkook, you have to turn to slow down, you shouted at him. You think he heard you because he started turning to slow himself down. You actually thought he was going to die and kill other people while he did it. You eventually came to a stop while Jungkook waited for you at the bottom. He took his goggles off and raised his arms. I still won, he cheered before losing his balance and falling onto his ass. You burst into laughter and unpleased look swarmed his face. I won. He cheered from the ground with a big grin on his face. You shook your head as you laughed at him. You never thought you would see this side of Jungkook. The side that actually smiles when he is happy, or the parts of him that longs to be loved. When you met that heartless man in the ballroom, you thought he was just like your father and the opposite of everything you was looking for. You was wrong. As you stand here watching him smile from winning a race, you realize that you was definitely and completely wrong. He is all you need now. You don't need your brothers or your mother or any friends to be happy. As long as you have him, you are more than happy. You are complete. You both went down the other slopes together so that you could make sure he didn't die. He almost bumped into the same 6-year-old from the last slope, and the 6-year-old told him to watch it. He got really angry, but you told him that the kid was 6 and that he did almost bump into him. Jungkook just shot you an unimpressed look before you both went up to the biggest slope. This slope was so big that even you was nervous. Oh, don't tell me you are having second guesses. He teased playfully before pecking your lips. No, not at all. You smiled, but you was really unsure. All you knew was that you wasn't going to let Jungkook beat you at skiing. This is your thing. You both lined up together at the edge. There was a lot less people up here than on the other two slopes. We have to have hot chocolate after this, Jungkook grumbled, rolling his eyes. I know, my hands are freezing, you replied, shivering. How can you be cold? You have like 12 layers on, he questioned with a confused glance before turning his attention back to the snowy slope. Maybe because I'm secretly a reptile, you uttered with nerves slowly building up in your stomach. The longer you stood here, it was starting to snow again. You ready? He smirked confidently. Yeah, ready to beat your ass. You pushed yourself down the slope. You both were going too fast and it was hard to keep control, but you loved it. You loved gliding down the slope with ease and having most of the control. You loved the speed. It made you feel almost like you could fly if you tried hard enough. Jungkook was behind you and you could tell he was focused on not falling rather than winning, but you was determined to show him who the real champion was. You reached the bottom with Jungkook miles behind, still skiing down the slope. You took off your helmet and laughed hysterically. You both were so dumb, but you loved it. You adored watching him ski, how he had no fear of dying, so would just shoot down the slope like there was no tomorrow. You wish you could be more like him and not worry so much about little things. This is your best Christmas. You lay down in your bed. It was about 11 pm and you both were watching a movie, John Wick. Come outside with me. Jungkook waved his hand at you, wrapping his house coat around him. No, it's too cold. You went curling into a ball under the blankets. I have a surprise, he muttered, knowing that it would get your attention, which it did. Your head popped up and you glanced at him before standing up and following him outside. He had a piece of paper in his hand while staring up confusedly at the stars. What are you doing? You grinned, knowing that he knew that you loved looking at the stars. That one, he pointed at a particularly shiny star. That one what? You muttered confusedly. He chuckled slightly before face palming his forehead. It seemed so much better at the time. He had an embarrassed look on his face as he spoke. What is it? You questioned with desperate tone. You wanted to know what he was cringing about. Actually, I bought you a star, he said quickly before pursing his lip, trying a fight off a smile. He bought you a star? I call the star Angel. My punchline was going to be Angel because you are my angel. He erupted into laughter at his own cheesy joke. You just blinked at him. He eventually calmed down and wondered why you wasn't laughing. But it was too dumb, so I didn't do it. He shrugged. So basically, I just bought you a star. He shrugged, glancing up at the sky and back at you. You are madly in love with this guy. It's not what he buys for you, but it's the thought that goes into what he buys. He listens to you and he notices the things you like, even if you don't tell him. Wyan, are you? You interrupted him by smashing your lips onto his. You jumped in the air and he caught you. You wrapped your legs around his waist. I want you now. You stared at him, but this time there was no unsure glance or hesitant look. Instead, he just nodded and carried you inside, kicking the door shut behind him. He threw you onto the bed, ripping his shirt off as he walked towards with you, a giggle escaping your lips. He climbed onto the bed and lay on top of you, kissing your lips passionately. He wasn't rough or harsh, he was gentle, but also dominant. You had told him ages ago that it was one of your turn once, but you are not surprised if it just came naturally for him. He kissed your neck, leaving a trail of hickeys from where he had kissed you. His touch made you feel like you could run a million miles without stopping. It sent sparks of energy throughout your body. You wanted more, you wanted all of him. Wyan, do you want to do this? Jungkook asked with a sigh, thinking you didn't want to. I do, I'm just scared. You blushed. Don't be, I'll be gentle. He kissed your cheek softly before saying, do you want me to start? You nodded, sure of what you wanted. You are in love with him. You may not have told him, but you are. You lay on his chest after a hot love-making session as you both talked. The only light in the room was the TV that was facing the bed. Teach me some Italian, you chirped, playing with his hand that rested on your bare waist, pulling you closer to him. Okay, he lay on his other arm. Cagna is a female dog. His accent changed when he spoke Italian, it got deeper. Cagna, you repeated, getting a nod off Jungkook. Soul is the sun. The words just rolled off tongue like it was effortless. Soul, you grinned knowing you pronounced it wrong. Sad is trist. He rolled his R. You attempted to copy him, but he chuckled at you when you failed. Okay, I'm bad at this. You giggled into his chest. The smile on his face slowly faded as he looked at you. He pressed his lips against yours, grabbing your face. He broke the kiss and looked at you fondly, with a little smile on his face, caressing your right cheek with his thumb. He spoke. He muttered while staring at you with a soft look in his eyes. What does that mean? You questioned, your eyelids becoming heavy all of a sudden. Nothing, you don't have to worry about. He kissed your forehead as you drifted off sleep while he watched the TV. woke up at about 4 a.m. to see Jungkook standing out on the balcony. He had left the door open so it was freezing. He had only his boxers on while his chain hung from around his neck. He was taking in the moonlight, his eyes were closed and his back muscles were tense. You climbed out of bed silently and approached Jungkook, wrapping blanket around you. Your footsteps making no noise. You hugged him from behind, catching him off guard. You felt his muscles relax at your touch as he let out a deep breath. You kissed his shoulder before leaning your head against his back. "Did I wake you up?" he asked with a gentle tone. "No," you muttered, half asleep, basically drooling on him. "Why are you up?" You grumbled with your eyes shut, taking in his scent. He had a strong, musky, masculine smell, and you wouldn't change it for the world. "I'm just thinking something," he mumbled quietly while staring at the stars. "Thinking about what?" you murmured, falling asleep with your arms around him. He was like your own personal heater. Your cold hands were resting on his warm skin. You don't know how he was still warm, standing outside in freezing weather. You could see the condensation of both of your breaths in the air due to the coldness. Thinking about the mafia and what if they need my help. I mean, I know they don't, but I constantly worry about it and if I'm doing a good enough job to keep the recruits in check. Jungkook rambled as he shook his head defeatedly as if it was a bad thing to care about the mafia. He ran his hand through his hair stressfully from worrying about the mafia so much. "You care that more than what my father ever did for our mafia." You scoffed at him. "You can't believe he thinks he's not doing a good job. You think he's a great leader and boss even though he can be an asshole sometimes." "Yeah," he sighed, agreeing with you. "You need to sleep, come on." You tugged his arm, pulling him back to bed with you. "I'm only going to bed because you are going to be in it." He grinned with a cheeky smile. "I'm okay with that." You smiled softly at him, pulling the blankets across your body. He lay next to you before you snuggled up close to him, one of your legs stretched across his body. You was playing with his hands while he shut his eyes trying to sleep for you. You think if you wasn't here, he wouldn't sleep. He would probably sit around, maybe scribble in his journal for a while. "Your hands is so tough," you chirped with a soft tone, running your fingers over the skin of his palm. "Yeah," he let out a deep breath. "It's probably from holding guns," Jungkook uttered, admittedly sounding exhausted. He may not know it yet, but you know he doesn't like to kill people. The way he reacts after killing someone isn't happy, it's just numb. He just became numb to feel guilt or remorse for things that did and the people he killed. "Jungkook, how did you feel when you first killed someone?" Your eyebrows frowned curiously as you continued to play with his hand laying on his chest. "My first kill." He huffed like he was trying to remember, but the way his body tensed when you mentioned it told you that he remembered. He sighed, rubbing his forehead stressfully. "It's okay, you don't have to talk about then, it's alright." Your fingers ran along the veins that went up Jungkook's arm. "No, it's you. I can tell you. I trust you." He took a deep breath in. He was very tense and seemed slightly thrown off by the memory. "I was 9. It was my birthday actually, and my father said that he had a surprise for me." I shouldn't have believed him. Jungkook scoffed, shaking his head. So he took me to our current base that was only newly built at that time and took me to one of the cells. He had a man handcuffed to a pole in the corner of dimly lit cell. He told me that killing him was my birthday gift. Jungkook chuckled, probably at how insane it sounds when he says it out loud. I told him I didn't want my gift, so he said that if I didn't kill him, the man would slowly die in the cell anyways, and that he would take everything away from me. Everything, being my toys to my bed. You watched as Jungkook closed his eyes trying to remember back to the day. He doesn't try to repress or forget his memories of the abuse his father put him through. He lives in them, replays them almost. He is not afraid of them, he faces them head on. He was really stubborn but strong, and you think that's what you admire most about him. He is fearless, he is brave. Even after my father's threat, I still refused to kill him. Then, because I refused, my father left me in the same cell. He came back and punched me repeatedly until I agreed to kill the man. He bit his lips while his eyes were shut. The man and I had conversation while my father was gone. The man had told me that it was okay if I killed him because he liked me and thought I was a good kid. He told me as long as I gave him a quick death, he wouldn't mind. Jungkook chuckled at his 9-year-old self for believing any better. The gun was in my hands, but my father had to pull the trigger, and then he was dead. Jungkook shrugged, reaching over to the cigarettes on that beside table and lit one, savoring the smoke. You felt your heart sink slowly for him. How did you react after you killed him? You wasn't sure if you wanted to continue asking questions about it, since you could see Jungkook still isn't over it to the day. I went home and cried for days. You feel bad for him. You feel bad for him, yet you thought you deserved your punishments and all your abuse. You know how Jungkook sees your father now. He sees your father like you see his father, a cruel, manipulative monster. And if they didn't get their way, they would punish people for their own mistakes. It made you furious, so furious that you wanted to cry. Why couldn't you see that sooner? Why couldn't you stand up to your father and put a gun to his head? You were so blinded by fear that you would be beaten that you didn't see things for how they were. That you was being abused. You know that you was abused, but you never really understood what it meant. But now you know it is getting beaten for the stupidest reason, like arriving home 5 minutes late because you decided to walk slower. Tears began to well up in your eyes as you started stare at the wall, lost in thought. I can't believe I thought that it was my fault. Jungkook scoffed disgustingly at the thought of his father. He didn't even realize that you had just come to that realization yourself. Your father was cruel, evil, and irrational, and because of this, you got punished. Tears welled up in your eyes as you tried to blink away so that Jungkook wouldn't notice. That was my first kill. He scoffed angrily at himself. He was so lost in thought that he didn't even notice you were struggling to fight off your tears until you couldn't hold them anymore. He glanced at you to see a tear rolling down your cheek. He raised his eyebrows surprisingly. God, he's so stupid. Why would he make that face now? You are going to think he is judging you for crying F. But you didn't say anything. Suddenly, the single tear had another tear next to it. Your lip quivered as you sat on the bed next to him, not realizing that he was staring at you. You had so much pain bottled up, and he wanted to kill every last person who was blamed for even a second of pain. He have already killed your father, but that wasn't enough. He wasn't fast enough. Maybe if he had met you when you both were 15, he would have killed him for you. No, he definitely would have, but he had been abusing you for a while, so he doubted that his 15-year-old self killing him would have made a difference. He will never like the people you knew during that period of your life. They were all too cowardly to save you. They were all too selfish. Every time he thinks of him laying a hand on you on his goal, his blood begins to boil. But he couldn't be angry right now. He had to be gentle right now for you. Hey, he whispered gently. You looked at him with widened eyes. I was abused, you muttered. Oh shit, he can't deal with this. This is why he is not cut out to be your boyfriend. He gulped as he looked at you worriedly. I was abused, you wept, tears beginning to stream down your face. What do he say? What do he say? What do he say? I know, baby. F. He is so bad at this. You need him, and he come out with I know. You didn't deserve any of it, he whispered, his heart clenched every time he looked at you. Your eyebrows frowned at his words. Why did he do it then? You whimpered quietly. Because some people are just evil. Some people are just cruel. He tried to explain as best as he could. But he couldn't give you a solid reason because he don't abuse, he just kill, which is probably worse. Why do you like him again? Oh yeah, he forgot, he is irresistible. What the F? Is his brain doing? His girl is sitting here in front of him having a mental breakdown and he is thinking that he is irresistible? Wyan, I will never let anyone lay finger on you even if it kills me. He grabbed your face gently before clenching his jaw angrily. You nodded weakly before hugging him. He never knew what being hugged felt like until he met you. He was missing out. You are the only person he will ever let hug him. The only one. His arms held you tight as you weaved into his chest before burying your face into his neck. You smell good. Your weak voice uttered, causing a chuckle to escape his lips. He slipped his hand under his shirt that you was wearing now and rubbed your back soothingly. He could feel your uneven breath slowly become normal as his skin brushed against yours. Of course, he know what he do to you. But does you know what you does to him? He don't think you'll ever realize how much power you has over him. He would kill everyone for you simply if you asked. There would be no reason needed. If he could make your pain go away, he would. If he could take your pain, he would. Your soft lips quietened as he hugged you, trying to make all the pain go away. I really like you. You chirped gently as he continued to rub your back. He was going to get up to turn on the TV until you gasped onto him like he was going to die. I'm just turning on the TV, he reassured you. He lay back in bed, your arms instantly wrapped around him. Hey, he whispered, grabbing your attention. You looked up at him. No more crying. I don't like seeing you upset. He wiped the tear from under your eye. You nodded with a sniffle.